Browns will get their 11th win of the year. They'll go to 11-5, and they're going to the playoffs. Unbelievable. What a season.
The Cleveland Browns have been one of the NFL's worst franchises over the past 20 years. But last year, something seemingly changed. Ever since Baker Mayfield came to Cleveland, there has been a sense that things may turn and he will be the guy to lead this franchise to eternal glory. Of course, 28 quarterbacks later, Browns fans had a right to be skeptical. But Baker Mayfield silenced the doubters, leading the Browns to their first playoff berth since 2002 and their first playoff victory since 1995. Their first road playoff victory since 1969. Now the Browns have one of the best rosters in the league, led by guys like Baker Mayfield, Myles Garrett, Nick Chubb, Denzel Ward, and of course 2020 Coach of the Year, and more importantly, Jawline of the Century winner, Kevin Stefanski. Look for the Browns to make a deep playoff run this year. Either way, the Browns still have a lot of holes on their roster they need to fill. With that being said, let's get into it. Before we begin, I just want to remind you guys to hit the subscribe button and even hit the notification bell so you don't miss a video. We'll be doing more off-season videos just like this one. Anyways, right now, SpotTrack projects the salary cap to be just above $190 million. The Browns should have right around $23.5 million of cap space before cuts. However, the Browns will definitely make some cuts to clear up cap space. One of the more obvious cuts for the Browns is Sheldon Richardson. Richardson was pretty underwhelming for the Browns this year, especially when factoring in the fact that he's making more than $13 million per year. This is the biggest name the Browns will be cutting, but they can also cut guys further down the depth chart like MJ Stewart, among others. The Browns can get right up to the $45 million range after cuts. The Browns would also be wise to extend Baker Mayfield ASAP as possible.
To call me ASAP as possible. Thanks.
Baker Mayfield showed enough down the stretch to prove he's the guy in Cleveland, so it would be smart of the Browns to get him on a good deal before his value increases this season. Some may argue that they want to see a full season of Baker playing at a high level, but we think the Browns should trust him to be the face of the franchise and sign him to a 4-year, $140 million contract. There is a lot of uncertainty surrounding David Njoku this upcoming offseason. Will he be traded, cut, or will the Browns keep him? Honestly, we personally think that the Browns should keep David Njoku and hang on and get the comp pick a year from now. It's not worth trading him. He's developed into a really nice run blocker and made some crazy plays last season. He's shown flashes of potential. He's just very good tight end depth, and that's something this team utilizes. Another thing that we should address are the Odell trade rumors. It is a myth that Baker Mayfield is better without Odell. It's an absurd thing to say that a quarterback becomes better without a top wide receiver. It probably has something to do with the fact that he played through a sports hernia in 2019 under Freddie Kitchens. Or maybe it has something to do with the fact that the offensive line when Odell was playing for Cleveland is just not what it is today. Or maybe it's that the offense was still learning how to play for Kevin Stefanski. Fair to say, the situation wasn't exactly right for Odell. Baker and Odell will finally get it together in 2021. Odell will be a Brown. No trades, no cuts. Just Odell in Cleveland. There are numerous key free agents the Browns will have to make decisions on this offseason. The list includes Olivier Vernon, Terrence Mitchell, Carl Joseph, Larry Ogunjobi, Rashard Higgins, B.J. Goodson, and Cody Parkey. The Browns should let Olivier Vernon, Larry Ogunjobi, and Carl Joseph all walk. Vernon is 30 years old, coming off an Achilles injury. We feel it would be very wise of the Browns to avoid him, and look to find another edge rusher either in the draft or free agency. Ogunjobi has been a solid player over his career, but he took a bit of a step back this year. He'll likely command something in the 3-year, $30 million range, and we just feel like that isn't worth it. Carl Joseph was a solid player this season, but Ronnie Harrison is still under contract, and they both play a similar style game, so the Browns should let Carl Joseph walk as well. As for Hollywood Higgins, he had a great second half of the season. He really stepped up when Odell went down, and him and Baker developed a ton of chemistry. Hollywood wants to be in Cleveland, and the Browns want him in Cleveland. We have the Browns signing Higgins to a team-friendly 2-year, $10 million contract. For Terrence Mitchell, the Browns should sign him to a 2-year, $6 million contract. This by no means fixes the Browns' dreadful secondary, but Mitchell proved to be a reliable depth option, which is something the Browns will need, especially when considering Greedy Williams' nerve issues. Mitchell has also had success as a slot corner over his career, which is something the Browns could also use. For BJ Goodson, the Browns should re-sign him to a 2-year, $9 million contract. Goodson really broke out with the Browns this year and filled the hole left by Joe Schobert last year. Goodson led the team with 91 total tackles and really helped out in the run game. For Cody Parkey, he was pretty solid last year and came a long way since the days of the double doink. It's definitely worth signing him to a 1-year deal worth about $1 million for him to compete with other kickers in training camp. If he plays well enough, the Browns should sign him to an extension in season. This is really just scratching the surface on free agents the Browns will have to either re-sign or let walk. But if I sat here talking about all the free agents the Browns have, we'd be here all day. So let's move on and let's get into free agency. Entering free agency, the Browns are set on offense, but their defense is going to need an entire makeover. They're going to need lots of help on the defensive line, along with a coverage linebacker and also some secondary help. After losing out on the J.J. Watt sweepstakes, the Browns still need to address the defensive line, and in a big way. After a 13.5 sack season with the Saints, Trey Hendrickson has become a very intriguing name on the market, and not one many are talking about. We have the Browns signing Hendrickson to a 3-year, $30 million contract. Hendrickson will immediately bolster the Browns' pass rush. Teams will have a very difficult time stopping him and Myles Garrett. The Browns should sign another impact free agent to the defensive line in Ndamukong Suh. Suh had a very solid year with the Bucs on their Super Bowl run. Suh completes what now has transformed into one of the scariest defensive fronts in football. The Browns will still have to find a coverage linebacker along with some secondary help. They can check one of those boxes by bringing in A.J. Bouye on a 1-year, $4 million contract. Bouye will play opposite of Denzel Ward, which is something the Browns need as Greedy Williams hasn't quite lived up to his potential. Although A.J. Bouye isn't as good as he once was, he could be a very solid stopgap cornerback for the Browns as they search for their long-term solution at the position. With free agency now behind us, it's time to get into the draft. Heading into the draft, the Browns still need to find a coverage linebacker, as that's something they didn't get in free agency. Right away at pick 26, the Browns will address this need and take Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah out of Notre Dame. There's a good chance he'll be unavailable, but make no doubt about it, if he is there when the Browns are picking, which we do think he will be, the Browns should not hesitate to take him. He feels the biggest need on this team and will make an immediate impact. In round 2, the Browns should look to add a safety. The Joe Woods defense likes to have 3 safeties on the field at times, and we think Paris Ford would be a nice fit. There isn't a clear hierarchy of safeties this year, but we like the potential that Ford offers. He's a bit of a rough prospect, but with the right coaching staff behind him, he could become a difference maker for this Browns team. For the rest of the draft, the Browns should look into depth on the defensive side of the ball, as many of those players have injury histories. With that being said, the Browns roster at the end of the offseason will look a little something like this. Overall, this Browns team is definitely a playoff team and has the potential to do even more. The defense becomes legit with the acquisitions of Trey Hendrickson, Ndamukong Suh, A.J. Bouye, and Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. The offense should be just as good, if not better than last year with a healthy Odell in the mix. The key to this Browns team really is staying healthy. They struggled to do that last season. This isn't something you can exactly plan for or coach for, but when healthy, this Browns team is scary. Who's going to block Myles Garrett, Trey Hendrickson, and Ndamukong Suh? Who's going to stop the double-headed monster of Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt behind one of the league's best offensive lines? Who's going to stop OBJ, Jarvis, and Hollywood Higgins? This team just has playmakers all over the field. Look for the Browns to make some noise and make a run at the Lombardi. Well, let us know what you think in the comments below. Do you agree? Disagree? Tell us why. Don't forget to subscribe, share with a friend, and maybe even give us a little thumbs up. We also started a Twitter page recently, and the link to that will be in the description, so give that a follow too. That does it for now. We'll see you next time. Peace.